The air smelled like rust and fear. Una stood on the metal platform with chains around her wrists. Her feet were bare and cold against the floor. Around her, hundreds of aliens walked through the massive hall, looking at creatures locked in cages and standing on blocks like her. This was the Vecra slave market on Station Omega 12. It was a place where lives were bought and sold. Like vegetables in a morning market, Una had been here for 3 days now. Before that, she spent 4 months in a transport cage. Before that, she was an engineer on a colonial ship heading to a new human settlement. Raiders had attacked them in deep space. They killed the ones who fought back. They captured the ones who surrendered. Una had surrendered. She still wondered if that was the right choice. The auctioneer was a small creature, 6 arms and a voice like grinding metal. It pointed at Una and spoke in the common galactic tongue. Human female. 28 cycles old. Technical skills. Can read and write. Starting price is 400 credits. Nobody moved. Nobody raised a hand. Una was not surprised. Humans had a bad reputation in the galaxy. They were considered weak, emotional, and difficult to control. Other species called them defective. Too much crying. Too much anger. Too much hope. Slave owners did not want creatures that hoped. Hope made slaves dangerous. 300 credits, the auctioneer said, lowering the price. Still nothing. 200. Silence. Una lifted her chin. Let them pass her by. Let them send her to the labor mines or the waste processing plants. She would survive. She always survived. That was what humans did. They survived things that should have killed them, and then they got back up and kept walking. 100 credits. Final offer. A voice came from the back of the crowd. I will pay the original price. 400. Everyone turned. Una turned too. She saw him then, and her breath caught in her throat. He was tall. Very tall. His skin was the color of storm clouds, smooth and gray. He had 4 eyes, all silver, arranged in a diamond pattern on his face. He wore black robes that looked expensive. His movements were slow and precise, like every step was calculated by a computer. He was Una had heard of them. They were known across the galaxy for their cold logic. They did not feel emotions. They did not form attachments. They were living machines made of flesh and bone. Perfect diplomats. Perfect strategists. Perfect monsters in a negotiation. The auctioneer seemed nervous. Ambassador Corvin, this is unexpected. You wish to purchase a human. I require one for a specific purpose, the Solari said. His voice was deep and flat, like stones falling into still water. Complete the transaction. Credits were transferred. Data pads were signed. And then 2 guards came to remove Una's chains. They pushed her forward, toward her new owner. Una walked. She did not stumble. She did not cry. She stopped in front of the Solari and looked up at him. He was nearly 2 meters tall. She had to bend her neck back to meet his 4 silver eyes. He studied her like she was a machine he was thinking about buying. Wait, he had already bought her. He studied her like she was a machine he was thinking about returning. Una spoke first. Her voice was rough from days without proper water, but it was steady. You covered my price. Now act. You own my service. Not my spirit. Something changed in the Solari's eyes. It was small, barely visible. A flicker. His head tilted slightly to the side, the way a bird might look at something strange. Explain, he said. I will work for you. I will do what you command, within reason. But I am not a pet. I am not a toy. I am a human being. You bought my hands and my skills. You did not buy my soul. The auctioneer laughed nervously. Ambassador, I apologize. Humans are known for this. They talk too much. They think they have rights. You can have her tongue removed if you prefer silence. Corvin did not look at the auctioneer. He kept his 4 eyes on Una. She felt like he was reading every thought in her head. Maybe he was. Some species could do that. That will not be necessary, Corvin said finally. She will keep her tongue. He turned and walked toward the exit. Yuna followed. She had no choice. But she walked beside him, not behind him. If he noticed this small rebellion, he did not comment on it. They left the market and entered the station's main corridor. It was crowded with aliens of every shape and size. Some looked at Yuna with pity. Some looked at her with hunger. She ignored them all. "What is my purpose?" she asked. "Why did you buy me?" "I require a translator and technical expert," Corvin said without breaking his stride. "I have a mission in human-controlled space. Your species does not trust mine. I need someone who can navigate human systems and human behavior. So you need a tool." Yes, at least he was honest. Yuna could respect that. Lies were worse than chains. They reached a docking bay. A ship waited there, sleek and black. The name on the side was written in Solari script that Yuna could not read. "The silence between stars," Corvin said, noticing her gaze. "My vessel. You will live and work here until the mission is complete." Yuna stopped at the boarding ramp. She looked at the ship, then at the Solari. "And after the mission? What happens to me?" Corvin paused. For a long moment, he did not answer. Then he spoke, and his voice held something that almost sounded like uncertainty. "I have not calculated that far. Let me calculate this," Yuna said. "I will serve you for one galactic cycle. I will work hard. I will be loyal to our agreement. But when the cycle ends, I walk away free. That is my condition. Slaves do not make conditions. Humans do. We always do. Even when we have nothing, we negotiate. It is how we survive." Corvin studied her again. That same flicker passed through his silver eyes. Then, slowly, he nodded. "Acceptable," he said. Yuna walked up the ramp and into the ship. She did not know what waited for her inside. She did not know if she would live or die. But she had done something that no other slave on that station done today. She had made a deal, and that meant she was still human. The first week on Silence Between Stars was difficult. Yuna slept in a small room near the engine bay. It was clean but cold. The bed was hard. The food was gray paste that tasted like nothing. But she had survived worse, so she did not complain. Corvin explained the mission on the second day. They sat in his private study, a room filled with data screens and strange artifacts from 100 different worlds. He spoke without emotion, laying out facts like a teacher giving a lesson. 3 months ago, Solari data crystals were stolen from a diplomatic outpost. The thief was a human smuggler. He sold them to a buyer on a colony world called New Busan. "I must retrieve these crystals. They contain sensitive information about Solari military positions." Yuna listened carefully. "And you need me because a Solari walking into a human colony would cause panic." "Correct. Your species does not trust mine. We are too different, too cold. They would never speak openly in my presence, but they would speak to me. Yes. You will be my voice, my hands, my face among your people." Yuna thought about this. It was a reasonable plan. She could work with reasonable. "What are my exact duties?" Corvin handed her a data pad. On it was a list of tasks. Translation services, cultural guidance, technical repair work on human-designed systems, security assessment of human facilities. "You were an engineer," Corvin said. "Your records indicate high skill levels. I will need those skills. You read my records? I read everything before I make a purchase." Yuna felt a flash of anger but pushed it down. She was a purchase to him. Nothing more. She needed to remember that. "Fine. I accept these duties. But I have conditions." Corvin's 4 eyes narrowed slightly. "You mentioned conditions before. I agreed to your freedom after 1 cycle. There is more." Yuna sat up straight and looked directly at him. "First, I work. I do not kneel. You will not make me bow or crawl or perform acts of submission. My dignity is not for sale. Acceptable. Second, I eat real food. Not paste. Not scraps. Proper meals that humans can digest without getting sick." Corvin considered this. The ship's food systems can be adjusted. Acceptable.
Actable.
Third, I have access to basic areas of the ship. I am not locked in a cell. I am not treated like a prisoner. I am a contractor, a worker, nothing less. For a long moment, Corvin said nothing. Then he spoke, and there was something in his voice that Una had not heard before. Curiosity, maybe. Why do you negotiate so hard? You have no power here. I could refuse everything, and you would have no choice but to obey. Una smiled. It was not a happy smile. Because negotiating is how humans stay human. When they take everything from us, we hold on to the small things. The words we say, the deals we make, the promises we keep. Those things remind us who we are. Corvin studied her for a long time. His silver eyes seemed to look through her skin and into her bones. Finally, he nodded. Your terms are acceptable. The contract is established. From that day forward, things changed. Una worked harder than she had ever worked in her life. The ship's engineering systems were alien and strange, but she learned fast. Within 2 weeks, she was fixing problems that Corvan's own engineers could not solve. Within 3 weeks, she was improving systems that had never been improved before. The crew noticed. There were 5 other beings on the ship, all Solari. They watched Una with cold, distant eyes. They did not speak to her. They did not acknowledge her. But she saw them looking when she rewired the power conduits. She saw them watching when she repaired the navigation computer in half the expected time. Corvin noticed too. He began visiting the engine bay more often. At first, he said it was for inspections. Then he said it was to check on mission preparations. But Una was not stupid. She saw how he lingered. She saw how he asked questions that had nothing to do with engines or missions. Why do you sing while you work? He asked one evening. Una looked up from the open panel she was fixing. It helps me focus. Solari do not sing. We find music inefficient. That sounds very sad. Tilted his head. Sadness is an emotion. I do not experience emotions. Then what would you call it? He paused. I do not have a word for it. Una smiled and returned to her work. She started singing again, a soft song her mother had taught her when she was a child. It was about the ocean on Earth, a planet she had never seen but always dreamed about. Corvin stood there listening for a long time. He did not move. He did not speak. When the song ended, he turned and left without a word. But the next day, the food processor in her quarters was upgraded. It could now make rice and soup and vegetables and bread. Real food? Human food? Una ate her first real meal in months that night. She cried while eating it. She was glad no one was there to see. Weeks passed. The ship traveled deeper into space, heading toward human territory. Una and Corvin developed a strange routine. She worked during the day, he observed during the evening. They talked about small things at first, then bigger things. She told him about Earth, about human history, about the wars and the peace and the endless struggle to be better. He told her about his people, about their logic and their order and their complete lack of what humans called heart. We are efficient, he explained. We do not waste energy on feelings. But what is the point of living if you feel nothing? Corvin had no answer for that. One night, Una made a mistake during repairs. The ship shook. Alarms rang. She managed to fix it before any damage was done, but she was embarrassed. She expected punishment. She expected anger. Corvin came to the engine bay and looked at the smoking panel. Then he looked at her. You were laughing, he said. She was. She could not help it. I almost blew up your ship. Yes, this is not amusing. It is a little amusing. Corvin stared at her. Then something strange happened. The corner of his mouth twitched. Just a tiny movement, almost invisible. Perhaps, he said slowly, a very small amount. Iduna laughed harder, and somewhere deep in his cold, logical chest. Corvin felt something he did not understand. He went to his quarters that night and recorded a private log. In it, he wrote a single question. What is happening to me? He could not find an answer. but he knew it had something to do with the human woman who laughed at disaster and sang while she worked. He diagnosed himself with a malfunction. He was wrong. It was something far more dangerous. It was the beginning of love. New Busan was beautiful. That was the first thing Yuna noticed when she stepped off the shuttle. The colony world had green hills and blue sky and air that smelled like rain and flowers. It looked almost like Earth, almost like home. She had to remind herself that this was a mission. She was here to work, not to feel. Corvin walked beside her, dressed in a heavy cloak that hid his gray skin and silver eyes. He looked uncomfortable. His kind did not hide. They did not pretend to be something they were not. But here, among humans, he had no choice. "Remember the plan," Yuna said quietly as they walked through the busy streets. "I do the talking. You stay in the shadows. We find the buyer, get the crystals, and leave." "I understand the plan. I created the plan, just making sure." The colony was alive with activity. Markets filled the streets. Children ran and played. Couples walked hand in hand. It was so normal, so wonderfully human, that Yuna felt her heart ache. She had been away from her people for too long. She had almost forgotten what it felt like to be surrounded by humans. To hear their laughter, to see their smiles, to feel the chaotic, beautiful energy that her species carried wherever they went. Their contact was a man who ran a repair shop in the lower district. Yuna had set up the meeting through encrypted channels during the journey. He claimed to know where the stolen crystals were hidden. He wanted money in exchange for information. They found the shop easily. It was small and dirty, filled with broken machines and spare parts. A bell rang when they entered. "I will be with you in one moment," called a voice from the back. Yuna froze. She knew that voice. She knew it like she knew her own heartbeat. But that was impossible. It could not be. He was dead. He had died in the raid. She had seen the ship explode. She had screamed his name as the escape pod carried her away. A young man walked out from the back room. He was tall and thin, with messy black hair and grease stains on his hands. He was wiping a tool with a dirty rag, not looking up. "What can I help you with today?" he asked Taiwu, Yuna whispered. The young man looked up. The tool fell from his hand. His eyes went wide. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Yuna." His voice cracked. "Sister." She ran to him. She threw her arms around him and held him so tight that neither of them could breathe. She was crying. He was crying. Years of grief and loss poured out of them both in that small, dirty shop. "I thought you were dead," she sobbed. "I saw the explosion. I thought I got out. A different pod. I searched for you. For years I searched." He pulled back and looked at her face, touching her cheek like he could not believe she was real. "Where have you been?" "Captured, sold." The words were bitter on her tongue. "But I survived." Taiwu's eyes moved past her. He saw Corvin standing near the door, a tall figure in a dark cloak. The young man's face changed. The joy disappeared. Suspicion and anger took its place. "Who is that?" Yuna turned. She had almost forgotten Corvin was there. "He is my employer." Taiwu stepped forward, his hands curling into fists. "I know what a Solari looks like, even under a cloak. Those eyes. That height." He looked at his sister with horror. "He bought you? Like property?" "Taiwu, it is complicated." "It is not complicated. It is slavery." Corvin spoke then, his voice calm and flat. "I compensated for her contractual release from unethical captivity." Taiwu laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That is slavery with better grammar." Yuna stepped between them. She put her hand on her brother's chest and pushed him back gently. "Listen to me. I know how it looks. I know how it sounds. But he has been honorable. He has kept every promise. He treats me as an equal when the rest of the galaxy treats humans as garbage. He still bought you." "Yes, and if he had not, I would be dead in a mining colony right now. Or worse." Taiwu stared at his sister. He did not understand. How could she defend the creature that owned her? but he saw something in her eyes that made him pause. She was not lying. She was not pretending. She believed what she was saying. "Fine," he said finally. "But I am watching him. If he hurts you, I will find a way to kill him. I do not care how big he is." Corvin tilted his head slightly. "Your protective instinct is noted. It is inefficient, but admirable. I do not need your admiration, alien." The tension was thick enough to cut. But Yuna managed to calm them both. They sat down. They talked. Taiwu explained that he had the information about the crystals. A local crime boss had them locked in a vault across the city. The security was heavy. The mission would be dangerous. "I can help," Taiwu said. "I know the city. I know the security systems." Corvin shook his head. "This is not your mission. You will stay here. She is my sister." "She is my responsibility," Yuna interrupted before they could argue again. "Enough. Both of you." She turned to Corvin. "My brothers stay safe. That is not negotiable." Something passed across Corvin's face. That flicker she had seen before. He looked at her, then at Taiwu, then back at her. "Agreed," he said. "I will complete the mission alone tonight. You will stay with your brother." Yuna was shocked. "That was not what I meant. I should come with you. That is my job. Your job is to assist me. Right now, the best assistance you can provide is to remain here, safe, with your family." He turned and walked toward the door. Before he left, he stopped and spoke without looking back. "Your reunion seemed necessary. I did not wish to interrupt it." Then he was gone. Taiwu watched the empty doorway for a long moment. Then he looked at his sister. That was strange. Solari do not care about reunions. They do not care about family. They do not care about anything. Yuna sat down slowly. Her heart was beating fast. Her mind was racing with thoughts she could not organize. "I know," she said quietly. "I know they do not." But Corvin had cared. He had seen her pain. He had seen her joy. And he had stepped aside to let her have this moment. She did not understand why, but she knew it meant something. Something important. The mission was successful. Corvin returned before dawn with the stolen crystals in his possession. He was injured. A burn mark crossed his left arm where a security beam had grazed him. But he did not complain. He simply walked aboard the ship, secured the crystals, and went to his quarters to treat his wound. Yuna found him there an hour later. She did not knock. She just walked in. He was sitting on the edge of his bed, trying to wrap bandages around his arm with one hand. The wrapping was messy and uneven. For a species that prided itself on efficiency, it was almost funny. "Let me," she said. He looked up. For a moment, something crossed his face. Surprise, maybe, or something softer. Then it was gone. "That is not necessary, I know." Walked over and sat beside him. She took the bandages from his hands and began wrapping his arm properly. Her fingers were gentle, but sure. "But I am doing it anyway." They sat in silence while she worked. The ship hummed quietly around them. Outside the window, stars drifted past like snowflakes in slow motion. "Thank you," Yuna said finally. "For last night? For letting me stay with Taiwu." It was the logical choice. Your emotional state would have compromised the mission. "Is that really why you did it?" Corvin did not answer. Yuna finished the bandage and tied it off. She did not let go of his arm. Instead, she looked up at his face, at his 4 silver eyes that seemed to hold galaxies inside them. "You are different," she said. "From when we first met, something has changed in you." "Nothing has changed. I am Solari. We do not change." "Everyone changes. Even you." Before he could respond, a loud alarm rang through the ship. Red lights flashed. Corvin stood immediately and moved to the communication panel on his wall. A message was coming through on a priority channel. A face appeared on the screen. Another Solari, older with darker gray skin and eyes like frozen steel. Yuna recognized the symbols on his uniform. This was someone important. "Very important," Ambassador Corvin, the old Solari said. "The High Council has reviewed your recent mission reports." Corvin stood straight, his posture rigid. I completed the mission successfully. The crystals have been recovered. The crystals are not our concern. The old Solari's voice was cold. Your reports contain anomalies. Your word patterns have changed. Your decision-making shows signs of a logical bias. You delayed the mission to allow the human to reunite with a family member. You prioritized her emotional state over operational efficiency. It was a tactical decision. It was contamination. Emotional contamination from prolonged exposure to the human variable. The old Solaris eyes seemed to look straight through the screen. You are ordered to surrender the human to the nearest Solari outpost. You will then return to the homeworld for recalibration. Recalibration. Yuna had heard that word before. It meant having your personality erased. Your memories wiped. Your sense of self destroyed and rebuilt according to Solari standards. It was death without dying. Corvin was silent for a long moment. His hands hung at his sides. His face showed nothing. Then he spoke, and his voice was steady. No. The old Solari's eyes widened. For his species, it was an explosion of emotion. Repeat that. I refuse. The human remains with me. I will not return for recalibration. You are defying the High Council. You are defying your own people. Yes. The old Solari leaned forward. Then you leave us no choice. You are declared contaminated beyond recovery. Termination has been authorized. 3 ships have been dispatched to your location. They will arrive in 6 hours. The screen went dark. Yuna stood frozen. Her heart was pounding. Corvin, what did you just do? He turned to face her. His silver eyes held something she had never seen before. Pain, maybe, or fear, or something even deeper. I do not know, he said quietly. I only know that when they spoke of taking you away, something inside me broke. I could not allow it. I could not calculate a future where you were gone. Yuna stepped closer. They will kill you now. Your own people will hunt you down. Yes, why? I am just a human. You said we were defective. You said we were inefficient. You said I was wrong. He turned away and walked to the window, staring out at the stars. I have studied every species in the galactic database. I have analyzed their behaviors, their strengths, their weaknesses. None of them could do what you did. What did I do? You've survived. Turned back to her. You were captured, sold, and broken. But you rebuilt yourself. You laughed when you should have cried. You hoped when there was no reason to hope. You loved your brother across years of separation when you believed he was dead. And you defended me to your own kind, even though I had done nothing to earn it. His voice grew softer, almost human. Your species is not defective, Yuna. Humans are impossible. You feel too much. You hope without evidence. You love without logic. And somehow, against all probability, those things make you strong. He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. I find that I am becoming impossible as well. Yuna felt tears forming in her eyes. She walked toward him until they were standing close enough to touch. That is not a defect, Corvin. That is being alive. She reached out and took his hand. His skin was cool and smooth. He did not pull away. Instead, his long gray fingers slowly curled around hers. They stood there in the starlight. 2 beings from different worlds holding on to each other like anchors in a storm. They will come for us, Corvin said. I know. We may not survive. I know. Are you afraid? Yuna squeezed his hand. Yes, but I am also human. We are always afraid. We just keep going anyway. Corvin looked down at their joined hands. Something shifted in his silver eyes. The coldness was melting away, replaced by something warm and fragile and new. Then we will keep going, he said. Together. Outside the window, the stars continued their endless dance. And somewhere in the darkness, 3 Solari warships were moving closer. But Yuna was not thinking about the ships. She was thinking about the alien, who had learned to feel, and the impossible. A logical, beautiful thing growing between them. It was called love, The Solari warships arrived exactly when expected. 3 dark shapes against the star field, each one larger than Corvin's vessel, each one armed with enough weapons to turn the silence between stars into dust. YUNA stood on the bridge beside Corvin. The other crew members had fled hours ago, taking escape pods to neutral stations. They wanted no part in their ambassador's madness. Only Yuna remained. "You should have gone with them," Corvin said. He was standing at the command console, his 4 eyes moving across tactical displays. "We had a contract. 1 galactic cycle. It is not over yet. This was not part of our agreement," Yuna smiled. "I am renegotiating." The communication screen flickered. The same old Solari from before appeared, his cold eyes filled with something that might have been satisfaction. "Ambassador Corvan, this is your final opportunity. Surrender the human. Power down your weapons. Accept termination with dignity." Corvin did not look at the screen. He kept his eyes on the tactical display. "How many ships have you lost to humans over the centuries?" The old Solari paused. "That is not relevant." 47. "I have read the records. 47 Solari vessels, destroyed by human crews who should not have had the technology or the training to defeat them. Do you know why they won? They were lucky. No, they were unpredictable. They fought without logic. They sacrificed themselves for each other. They loved so deeply that they became dangerous." Corvin finally looked at the screen. "I used to find that weakness disgusting. Now I understand. It is not weakness. It is strength that you cannot calculate." The old Solari's face hardened. "You have truly lost yourself." "No. I have finally found myself." End communication. The screen went dark. A moment later, the 3 warships began moving into attack position. Yuna moved to the engineering console. Her fingers flew across the controls. "I can reroute power from the life support reserves. It will give us 30% more shields. That will only delay the inevitable. Then we delay it." She looked at him fiercely. "I did not survive slavery, cross the galaxy, and find my brother again just to give up now. We fight." Corvin studied her for a long moment. Then something changed in his face. His lips curved upward. Just slightly. Just enough, he was smiling. For the first time in 200 years, he was smiling. "We fight," he agreed. The battle was chaos. Corvin's ship was smaller and weaker than the warships. But it was also faster. He flew it like it was part of his body, sliding between laser blasts, diving under missile salvos, spinning through debris fields that would have crushed larger vessels. Yuna worked miracles from the engineering console. She rerouted power in ways that should not have been possible. She found weaknesses in systems that were supposed to be perfect. She made the ship do things it was never designed to do. 1 warship fell when Yuna overloaded their sensors with a feedback pulse. They flew blind for 30 seconds. That was all Corvin needed. He put 12 shots through their engine core before they could recover. The 2nd warship fell when Corvan used their own torpedo against them. He caught it in a tractor beam, spun it around, and sent it back at twice the speed. The explosion was beautiful. But the 3rd warship was smarter. It kept its distance. It waited for the silence between stars to exhaust its ammunition. Then it moved in for the kill. "Shields at 12%, Yuna reported. Her voice was calm, but her hands were shaking. "Weapons offline. Engine power critical." Corvin sat in the command chair. Blood dripped from a wound on his head. Sparks flew from damaged consoles around them. The ship was dying, and they were dying with it. "I am sorry," he said quietly. "I should have calculated better." Yuna left her console and walked to him. She knelt beside his chair and took his hand in hers. "You calculated perfectly. You just forgot one variable." "What variable?" "Humans never give up." She stood and walked to the communication console. Her fingers moved across the controls. A distress signal went out, broadcasting on all human frequencies. "This is the vessel Silence Between Stars. We are under attack by Solari forces near the New Busan sector. There is a Solari defector aboard who has protected human lives. He has defied his own people for us. He needs help. Please, Anyone who hears this, help us. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then the responses came. A cargo ship from a nearby trade route, armed with nothing but mining lasers. A passenger transport that should have been running away, turning around instead. A patrol vessel from New Busan, pushing its engines beyond safe limits to reach them. And behind them, more. Dozens of signatures appearing on the sensors. Human ships of every size and type, all moving toward the same point in space. What is happening? Corvin whispered. Why? Yuna smiled, tears running down her face. You saved one of us. So we save you. That is how humans work. That is what love looks like. The last Solari warship saw the approaching fleet. It calculated the odds. It recognized that the situation had become unwinnable. It retreated. The bridge was silent except for the hum of damaged systems and the soft beeps of the dozens of human ships surrounding them. Yuna knelt beside Corvan's chair again. She bandaged his head wound with torn fabric from her sleeve. Why did you stay? He asked. Because you stayed for me first. On New Busan, you let me have my brother back. You chose my happiness over your mission. She tied off the bandage. That is what love is, Corvan. It is inefficient. It is illogical. And it is the most powerful force humans have ever known. Corvin processed this. Then, slowly, he reached out and touched her face. His gray fingers were gentle against her cheek. It was a gesture he had seen humans use. A gesture of affection. Of connection. I believe, he said carefully, I am experiencing this malfunction. Yuna laughed, tears still falling. Then we are both defective now. She leaned forward and pressed her forehead against his. They stayed there, breathing together, while the human fleet formed a protective circle around them. Months later, reports spread across the galaxy of a strange pair traveling together. A Solari diplomat and a human woman. They were seen helping refugees escape war zones. They were seen exposing slave markets and freeing the captives. They were seen destroying the systems that had once traded in human lives. The Solari called Corvin broken. Humans called him a hero. And every night, as their ship moved through the endless dark between stars, Yuna taught Corvin a new word. Words his language never needed: compassion, hope, mercy, belonging, and love. Always love.